Dzień dobry Państwu.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to welcome you at the press conference after the meeting of the Monetary Policy Council. In today's conference, we have the following guests: Adam Glapiński, the Governor of the National Bank of Poland, the Chairman of the MPC, Professor Grażyna Ancyparowicz, and Professor Eric Won. Please, Mr. Governor, the floor is yours. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Information from the meeting of the Monetary Policy Council held on the 5th and 6th of February 2019. The Council decided to keep the NBP interest rates unchanged, reference rate at 1.5%, lombard rate at 2.5%, deposit rate at 0.5%, rediscount rate at 1.75%. Incoming data indicate a weakening in some of the largest economies amid heightened uncertainty regarding the outlook for global economic activity in the coming quarters. In the euro area, GDP growth in 2018 Q4 remained lower than in the first half of 2018, while economic climate indicators declined in the recent period. In the United States, GDP growth in 2018 Q4 slowed down, although economic conditions in this economy remained strong. At the same time, in China, activity growth continues to gradually decline. Despite some increase in global oil prices in the recent period, their level is lower than in 2018 Q3. This is leading to a decline in inflation in many countries. Alongside that, core inflation in the environment of the Polish economy, including the euro area, remains low. The European Central Bank keeps interest rates close to zero, including the deposit rate below zero. At the same time, the ECB continues to reinvest the funds from the maturing securities. Following an interest rate hike in December 2018, the US Federal Reserve is keeping interest rates unchanged. In Poland, preliminary GDP data for 2018 suggest that GDP growth in 2018 Q4 remained relatively high, although it was slightly lower than in previous quarters. GDP growth is still driven by rising consumption, albeit at a slightly lower rate than in previous quarters, that is fueled by increasing employment and wages, as well as very high consumer sentiment. This was accompanied by a rise in investment. Notwithstanding relatively high economic growth and wages increasing faster than in previous years, annual consumer price growth has declined in recent months and remains moderate. At the same time, inflation net of food and energy prices continues to be low. In the Council's assessment, the outlook for economic conditions in Poland remains favorable. However, in the quarters to come, there will probably be a gradual slowdown in GDP growth. At the same time, according to current forecasts, the annual price growth will increase in the coming months. Yet, due to lower oil prices than in 2018 Q3 and the freeze on electricity prices, the scale of this increase will be markedly smaller than anticipated in the November projection. In the medium term, the expected slowdown in economic growth will have a dampening effect on inflation. Consequently, in the monetary policy transmission horizon, inflation will remain close to the target. The Council judges that the current level of interest rates is conducive to keeping the Polish economy on a sustainable growth path and maintaining macroeconomic stability. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor. Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Dzień dobry, Dorota Bartyzel, Lombard News. Chciałam z jednej strony nawiązać do komunikatu, a z drugiej strony troszeczkę go rozszerzyć. Zaczynają Państwo komunikat od zdania: napływające dane wskazują na osłabienie koniunktury globalnej.
Globally, the economic conditions are declining a little bit, and the lack of correlation between Polish monetary policy and foreign monetary policy, and there were comments on that, because in our case interest rates remain unchanged, maybe, Under Polish conditions, the easing of monetary policy is more probable if there are some changes rather than tightening of monetary policy. Let me say that as regards interest rates, they are going to be unchanged, we predict. The situation in Poland is stable, one of the most stable situations in Europe, at least in the countries that I know of. And we do not expect changes as regards monetary policy, as indicated by the meeting of the MPC. As regards tightening of monetary policy, we could observe it in the United States, but it was preceded by strong easing. The European Central Bank has finished with the QE and purchasing assets at a large scale in December. And the effects of this policy of quantitative easing will be seen in the course of the 2 years. So we have been witnessing QE, and changes are related to changes in the quantitative easing. In our case, we have a stable policy. Maybe it's the longest period of stable monetary policy in the world even. And the situation is stable. Next question.
Rafał Duszyński, Polska Agencja Prasowa, Redakcja Ekonomiczna. W świetle tego, co pan prezes przed chwilą powiedział, czy podtrzymuje pan tezę, że nie wyklucza pan, że do końca obecnej kadencji Rady stopy procentowe mogą pozostać bez zmian?
Will the interest rates remain unchanged until the end of the term in office? Everything depends on the situation in the surrounding world. I mean China, the US, and the situation in the European Union and Euro area, but current tendencies show, as we can predict, that until the end of the year and probably next year there won't be any changes. Dear professors, do you agree with the governor's statement? Yes, we do, not only because he's the president of the Monetary Policy Council. We are totally autonomous in our decisions, but the data show that even if there is a slowdown in the growth of Polish economy, GDP growth will be similar to 2014, and the level of interest rates were similar. So we do not expect the lack of balance which is going to interfere with stable growth. I used to say that for economy and for society it is better to see moderate growth but a stable growth. We don't want a very high speed of economic growth. It is better to see a marathon for the long run period, because we need at least 4 or 5 years of stable, moderate growth. And then the disparity as regards the living conditions, it is going to be diminished compared to Western European countries. So as regards 2020, what are your expectations? It is difficult to say. We are going to have a new forecast in March, and if everything remains unchanged, it is not excluded, it cannot be excluded that current interest rates are going to remain unchanged by the end of the year and next year.
Wielokrotnie postulował pan, że rzeczywiście ta stabilna polityka pieniężna prowadzona przez nasz bank centralny jest bardzo wielkim polskim atutem. To, że właśnie to stopy procentowe są na tak niskim poziomie i przez tak dłuższy czas, już parę lat już są one bez zmian. I gdyby się udało właśnie nawet do końca tej kadencji naszej Rady utrzymać te stopy na takim poziomie, uważam, że jest to bardzo ważne, bo wspiera, tak jak tutaj i pan prezes, i pani profesor zwracali na to uwagę, wspiera tą sferę realną, z jednej strony stabilizuje procesy inflacyjne, a z drugiej strony właśnie wspiera sferę realną, zarówno też inwestycje i całą sferę realną. Jest to bardzo ważna sprawa i wielki atut. I to, że posiadamy własny bank centralny i własną politykę pieniężną, jest to bardzo ważne.
And of the National Bank of Poland. Over 5% growth, which has remained unchanged for a long time. It is going to decrease somewhat in Poland, but still it is sustainable growth. It is a phenomenon, taking into account low inflation, and we believe that it's going to be growth still and low inflation. So it is a miracle of the Polish economy, as it has been mentioned. And Poles sometimes are too modest. We've been saying about miracles in Japan or Germany, in different situations, although there were disbalances there, and some problems occurred, and Poland is developing really fast, and growth is sustainable thanks to the National Bank of Poland in particular. And we do not refer to it as a miracle. We are still focusing on problems. Of course, everything is going to be over at some point. You cannot develop endlessly or grow endlessly. But it is an economic miracle that we are speaking about, thanks to work of all Poles. Can I add something? To begin with, we have to focus on people who work, and these are Polish entrepreneurs who used to have difficult conditions, unstable conditions related to regulations, for example, that are difficult from the point of view of entrepreneurs, and they still develop output and production, and GDP is growing and employment is growing. So would like to express our gratitude as regards them. And this is my maybe private opinion. The role of monetary policy, I'm not going to boast. I'm one of 10 people who are proud to be a member of the Monetary Policy Council, and we used to have deflation at some point, and we expected it to go on for some time, and our team stood against pressure, and we didn't make decisions that were taken in other countries, and we went through these difficulties, and we are responsible people, and we must say that consequences for our economic situation are positive. Monetary policy in Poland is very transparent and predictable. We do not surprise people with unreasonable decisions, and we are not under external pressure. Even sometimes people say that they are right. There were some inflation forecasts that it would be speeding up since April last year. We do trust our staff, and let me express my gratitude to people who provide us with information, with data, with material, because they are at the highest level of quality. So we do not need to have some external opinions. We focus on people who provide MPC with information.
We can't conceal that the management of the Federal Reserves in the USA and the central banks, some in a very discreet way and others very openly, admitted that they made a mistake in the forecast of what's going to happen in the economy this year, and they proceeded to different phases of action prematurely, and we didn't do that. And regarding what I was saying before, over the last years, consumption rose by 10% in Poland, and it's stimulated by consumers and by the society. This is an incredible growth. The level of life in Poland is growing very rapidly, and GDP is growing rapidly with the balance. And that's when this feature is very positive. This is our constitutional duty as a National Bank of Poland. In Italy, over the recent 2 quarters, we have observed a decline. So we have 2 years to catch up with the level of 2008. And otherwise, well, if the GDP will continue to grow, despite what the optimists say, the pessimists say, well, the GDP will continue to grow, and this is a miracle. Another question, please. Good afternoon. So, in this regard, can we expect that the pace of the GDP growth will be higher than the one assumed in projection? The World Bank are carrying out some actions, upward actions, and in Germany, well, the shortest answer is yes, but in March we are going to have another projection, but we expect it will be more than 4%. 4% for this year, right? Inflation approximately 2%. Well, the deceleration of the expected growth in energy prices is something that is conducive to this process. This is how it's supposed to be, because the Ministry of Finance should have grounds for this. If the economic situation changes, we will not have to reanalyze the budget. Yes, another question. Krzysztof Brenda, RMF. I would like to ask a few questions, starting with the monetary policy. I would like to ask you about not the exchange rate, but the stability of the Polish zloty, because we can say that a lot is happening in the environment, and our Polish zloty is not changing. Of course, the National Bank of Poland takes care of the value of the money. I would like to express my congratulations, but isn't it that the role of the stabilizer of the economic situation regarding the forecast can be very small? Can you see a problem in it, and what conclusions do you have? Well, the exchange rate is liquid. This is a liquid course. The floating course, and we do not interfere with it, and still it's very stable. Of course, we do take care of the value of the Polish zloty, and it's not that we do it by force, that we make it stable. We cannot conceal that our grounds are very stable. Polish zloty is trusted in the country and outside, and hence it has a positive meaning this year. The National Bank of Poland, and I think the whole Poland, will celebrate the anniversary of 100 years of Polish zloty, and we treat it very seriously, because zloty plays an incredibly serious role in the situation in Poland. In the next days, the building of the National Bank of Poland will be decorated appropriately, so that we can celebrate this anniversary properly, and we will organize conferences, seminars, discussions on the role of the Polish zloty, and in particular, taking into the consideration those subjects that are discussed in the environment, where there is an element of passing to the Eurozone. which doesn't require the change in the constitution. I mentioned it in my interview where I went further than I should as the governor of the National Bank of Poland. Well, it can be a problem of the constitution and the National Bank of Poland to introduce the exchange rate of the Polish zloty grounded based on euro. It would be not a good situation. It turns out that with the Polish economy, with the Polish finance, with our size, the Polish zloty is a very serious value that makes it possible for us to have a well-being. I would like to say what the disparity is. In the new financial magazine, there are some numbers given regarding the parity. I would like to quote one number. In Germany, according to the purchasing power in euro, in a one-person household with 13,000 euro annually per person, this household is considered as a poor household. In Poland, we have the same number, but it concerns a four-person household. So please imagine what the situation would be if we would jump into it and transfer from the Polish zloty to euro, taking into consideration that our purchasing power of euro is significantly higher. I would like to say that the fact that the Polish zloty is a stable currency is another argument for having the right for Poland to its own currency. And as Mr. Professor said, this is something we can be proud of because Polish people can see that we have an effective national bank. We have a stable currency we can boast about in other countries and in the whole world. And I believe that it will be a great celebration, and I will be a fan of those celebrations. And I would like these celebrations to influence the Polish society in a positive way. Why am I saying this? In one of my interviews, I said that for the growth of our homeland and for the economic growth of every country, trust is something that is of core significance and an effective currency. And the research shows that we have to raise the trust between people, and I believe that the National Bank of Poland management plays a great role in this process. We have an independent, strong central bank in all rankings, and this strength is not subjected to any doubts. We have a stable currency. We have a stable banking system on the backdrop of other European countries. And of course, there can be some problems of individual banks, but the system is stable and it's effective, and the whole system is in a very good condition. We can see it in public opinion polls that people accept the Polish zloty. They don't want to transfer from the Polish zloty to euros. We have comparison in other neighboring countries where the euro was introduced, and here the system is working well. We have a conservative attitude, and until something happens, we don't have to think whether we should change it or not. And we cannot have a cheaper capital that doesn't destabilize the economy, but also we have a trust of investors. If we introduced the euro, then the disparity would disappear, and in this connection, Poland would have a lower competition power. And it's not that we, as the National Bank of Poland, say that we don't have an obligation to accept euro, but everything has its time, and if we fulfill all the criteria of convergence, then we will be ready. But from the side of the society and the problems that we still have, so that this economy is innovative, so that we can observe this innovation, so that the investment grows, and we have those modern branches. Without the cooperation with abroad, without the connections to the global networks, but not only production networks, but also the technical thoughts, we will not manage to do it. If foreign investors came to the conclusion that Poland is not a country where they should invest money, there are other countries that will accept them with open arms. Then we will go against our mission, against the mission of the National Bank of Poland, whose aim is to strengthen Polish zloty.
I would like to add that as regards euro, no one is going to force us to introduce euro. There is no deadline in order to introduce euro, the euro currency in Poland. In Sweden, they had similar information in their accession treaty, and they had a referendum, and they did not introduce euro. And it is also very important that we have to realize and be aware what currency is beneficiary for us, and no one is going to force us to introduce euro. And we have to emphasize the advantages of the Polish currency. Can I also open another topic as regards the independence of the National Bank of Poland, as regards an act on the NBP, which is to be, the amendment is going to be adopted by the Polish Parliament. Is independency of the National Bank of Poland violated? Are you going to appeal to the President, maybe so that it goes to the court? And how about this act? Maybe someone declared that they are going to leave the National Bank of Poland. You asked very many questions, actually. I don't think anyone is going to leave the National Bank of Poland. It is one of the best working places in Poland. And not only as regards remuneration, but also because of the comfort of employment in the National Bank of Poland. This is a conservative, stable institution, very good interpersonal relations can be observed. It is a place where you can be promoted, you can improve your qualifications and skills. I must say that during the days of the Polish People's Republic, it was also a stable working place, but I'm not going to comment on the political situation in those days. It is one of the best places for work, for employment. I don't think people are going to leave the National Bank of Poland. As regards an act, I'm not going to comment on that, because the Parliament Sejm is going to vote over it. I haven't discussed this issue with the President. I'm going to meet him soon. I don't intervene in the legislative process. This was not our initiative, the initiative of the National Bank of Poland to pass this law, because it's going to only have a negative influence on our institution, but we are going to face the challenge and we are going to solve these problems. We are in touch with the European Central Bank. We have their opinion as regards this issue, and we have our standing as regards this issue too. We are speaking about directors, top-level employees. It is related to certain discomfort. When we speak about disclosure of remuneration, of awards, of bonuses, it is causing certain discomfort, because these are different elements, different aspects, but also the disclosure of your property. We have 43 directors in the National Bank of Poland, in branches, and deputy directors as regards the public disclosure of assets of the governor. It is not questioned, of course, but no other European central bank, no other central bank in Europe has a similar law. The disclosure of remuneration, the Bank of England, for example, they have executive directors, and their remuneration is public. The Central Bank of Romania, they have disclosed assets of all public employees, but these are specific situations. So we are going to be a special case, an exception, and it is a certain discomfort for our employees because they feel they are being punished for something, or there are some concerns about them. Right. We are not an institution which is privileged in any way. Other institutions in the public sector related to the financial market, why are they not covered by this regulation? The Bank Guarantee Fund, and there are a number of such institutions, more than a dozen. Why us? If there is such a regulation, it shall cover all public institutions, because it will mean public accountability, and why wages and disclosure of assets. Of course, assets are related to remuneration, and it is up to the year 1995, and we have a system that operates since 2002, which is a common system, and since 2013 we can find data very easily by one click of the button, but not earlier. And when you are asking about people resigning, it might be maybe related to the fact that they don't want to make their assets public. And this might be people among directors and not necessarily those who earn better than others in the national bank. Right, the banking sector is growing and so on, but we are a public institution. Taking into account other aspects, that you can upgrade your qualification skills, you can take part in training sessions, in seminars, in workshops, and improve your qualifications. The European Central Bank obviously takes over some of our employees because they pay same wages, but in the euro currency. But I don't think there will be mass resignations. I exclude such a possibility.
To są kwestie subtelne, na wyczucie.
These are sensitive issues, of course.
Regulacje europejskie,
as regards EU regulations,
z tego traktatu o funkcjonowaniu, o
trybie
konwergencji i tak dalej, mówią,
and
że
the regulations on convergence say that changes in remuneration in the central bank and its structure and the level of remuneration has to be established based on the consent of the National Bank of Poland. Right, so two more questions.
I will ask both.
Okay.
Okay. You had questions, right? Sorry, we can't hear without the microphone. Okay, so you...
Dobrze, to panie prezesie, adwocem tego, co pan powiedział,
regarding what you have said
w Sejmie
in the Polish Sejm,
Pani prezes miała bardzo płomienne wystąpienie.
Representative of Mr. Governor had a very hot speech saying that it will not influence the stability of the National Bank of Poland. Well, I'm speaking from the position of the governor. I will continue to be the governor of the National Bank of Poland, and no one will no one will be able to damage the integrity of the National Bank of Poland. So far, we haven't seen that. Well, there are some speeches, unfortunate speeches of a prime minister or some minister who tries to comment on the banking issues. Well, it's not a serious attempt to interfere. We do not interfere in the activity of the government, and we don't comment on it. And in closed meetings, we do speak about the policy, about the educational policy, economic policy. We issue opinions on the laws, and we don't publicize it. So there is an independence of the institutions in Poland. You said on the one hand, you don't interfere in the legislation process. On the other hand, you said that you're going to meet with the president and speak about it. Would you like to, or would you try to coerce him to say something? Well, probably president will want to know how this law will influence the work of the bank. Well, I do not refer to it. As I said before, the law is the law. If something has been decided, this is the law, and everyone should comply with it and not discuss that the green light or the red light is on for too long. We have to comply with it, and that's it. And the law is ready. We just have some technical amendments, and we will respect the law, and we will implement it. I personally don't understand why it wasn't easier, simpler, that there is a coefficient that is agreed on with us, and there is a transparency of salaries or a transparency of financial statements, or the range of salaries for every position. Well, the legislator who represents the will of the people, and here probably the will of the mass media, and I've heard that the mass media represent the will of the society. Well, if you're satisfied, I'm satisfied. But as I said before, in the work of the bank, we will have a mess. There will be a lot of work. We will have to devote a lot of attention to it, and we will have a lot of problems resulting from the fact that we will know everything about one another, just like in the editorial office, if you knew everything about one another, it would probably introduce some chaos. The disclosure of the salaries really made a very bad work. Well, if you want transparency of the National Bank of Poland, I encourage you to present the salaries of the Polish universities. We've introduced $16 billion dollars, and saying that this is indecent, that we don't openly say about it. Well, start with yourself. We encourage all institutions, all public institutions, to present full transparency of salaries. And in the group of our managers and directors, we said maliciously that all the employees of the National Bank of Poland make a statement and ask how much directors in the ministries earn, how much employees of the universities earn. Of course, we will not do that, because unlike other people, I'm responsible. I take care of a good state. I'm not looking for any conflicts. I try to reconcile the interests, and I will not go against the Polish government, and I will try to do everything with the prestige for the country and solve all the problems. We will solve all our problems, although it will be painful. I would like to go back to my yard, where the level of exchange rates is and reference rates is very important. I would like to start with the words that I've started with today, because I don't fully understand it. For some part of analysts who said that there would be a growth, no, this time all analysts forecast, no, not today, but in general, in the perspective that we will tighten the monetary policy in Poland, and it will be forced because of the central bank. There was an atmosphere like that. Right now, this probability on the part of the ECB is smaller. Is our proposal or idea of lowering the rates is not so extravagant. In other words, isn't it like that it's more probable that there will be a reduction? Well, our policy in foreign groups has never been considered extravagant. It was considered to be stable, boring, functioning in very good conditions. At the meetings in Basel, where all governors are present, they've said that there will be no overheating. We have to understand that the economic situation will become cool. And despite this fact, I want to criticize our colleagues, but the European Central Bank and Fed went in a different direction. Right now, it has been stopped, but I will reiterate, the European Central Bank does not ease the policy. It stops this intensive easing that was taking place, but it will have to decelerate for the next 2 years. And we are in the situation where, from the very beginning, we were in the proper place. We didn't lower the rates too much. We didn't increase the rates at the moment where you were saying that the inflation will grow and we have to tighten the rates. Right now, thanks to it, we are in a very good situation. Well, in the prospect of a few years, it's hard to say when, if we will have to increase or decrease the rates, well, we will do that. Right now, it's not the matter of the discussion. Well, there is a growth of the level of life, and we have inflation within the limits of the lower limit of deviation. So we are in a situation which does not evoke discussions on the changing of the interest rates. Well, everyone dreams of this situation unless someone is driven by some emotions, but we are conservative workers, and we are happy that everything is under control, everything is stable, and we hope that everything else is the same way. Marta Bramczyk, TVN 24. I have questions regarding the current developments. First, if you could explain, how did you know that Marek Chrzanowski, the former president of KRF, will be dismissed, released from the detention facility. And could you please answer the interpellation?
W ogóle pani nie widać?
I could not see you.
Nie, no.
I could not hear you properly as well.
Pierwsze pytanie. Skąd wiedziałem, że pan przewodniczący
As regards your first question, how did I know that Chrzanowski will be released? Everyone knew that.
Wyrokiem czy decyzją 2 miesiące aresztu.
He got 2 months of arrest, of detention.
Wokół tego podnoszenia.
So it is really unreasonable to question me on that. And I just made this information, I spoke about that because people were speculating about that. If I said that he would be released earlier, then it might be questioned, but it is a well-known fact.
Interpelacji pana senatora
Now, as regards Senator
dwojga imion Jana Marii
Jan Marii Jackowski,
to było jakiś czas temu, ja dostaję dużo
it
tego dziennie.
happened some time ago.
Dotyczący
There was
jawności
this
właśnie,
question
tam
about
wynagrodzeń i tak dalej.
transparency, about disclosure of information
mamy
about
ustawę
remuneration.
I wszystko już
Right,
jest na
we've
stole
got the
na
law,
moment.
it's on the table,
Natomiast no,
and everything is going to be
wysłałem prywatny
public.
mail nawet do pana
But I
Jackowskiego.
wrote privately, I emailed to Jackowski, who I
Słynie z
have
tego,
known
że-
for several dozens
ze
of
skłonności do
years.
jawności, bardzo to
And
lubi,
he's
na
well
plaży.
known for
Wszystko
his
by chciał
love
ujawniać,
about
ale obowiązuje
transparency,
prawo w Polsce. W
but
Polsce obowiązuje prawo.
law
Od samego początku
operates in
powiedziałem, że prawo.
Poland.
Poradziłem się
And
swoich
I first
departamentów,
said
swojego biura RODO.
that I would
Mamy biuro
contact
RODO
with
profesjonalnie
our
działające.
departments,
Zgodnie
and we
z
have
tym, jak
specialists
nakazało prawo,
on the
utworzyliśmy
personal
do końca zeszłego
data
roku.
protection.
I stanowczą odpowiedź usłyszałem
And
jednoznaczną, że nie
I
mam prawa
heard that
Bardzo proszę,
I
pytania
was
są
not allowed to
bezprzedmiotowe. I powiedziałem, że jak będzie
disclose
ustawa, to
information
natychmiast
about wages, and
No
I
i właśnie
said
to
then
zrobimy. No,
we
już
would
byśmy
be waiting
ujawniali,
for the
pewnie
law.
nie to, że się pomylono, tam zamiast 2 napisano 3.
Instead of 2, they wrote 3 in the law, and that's why the law goes back to the parliament. Otherwise, the president would have taken his decision. So it goes to the parliament on the 20th, and then the president might sign it or refer to the constitutional court, and so on. There are several options. So senator was asking about something which is clear-cut, like 2 plus 2 equals 4.
I móc się na ten temat wypowiadać.
Right,
Sam
so
byłem krótko
people
politykiem.
like saying things. I used to be a politician before 1993.
Ja chciałbym
Mr.
spytać
Tuszyński, the
o
last
proces
question.
dostosowania
As
stawek referencyjnych
regards
krajowego
reference rates and the regulation on BMR, the Committee on Financial Stability decided that it was a financial risk, and now they are monitoring the situation. What is the decision of the Monetary Policy Council? And that before 2020 this system is not going to be introduced.
Chętnie poznamy.
My swoje stanowisko przesłaliśmy do przedsiębiorstwa, tej firmy, która
As
jest
regards
odpowiedzialna za to,
the
żeby to
representation of
zrobić.
this company who is in charge of this timely decision, the Financial Stability
My
Committee
wyrażamy zniecierpliwienie i niepokój, czy to na czas będzie zrobione.
is worried whether it's going to be done on time.
Natomiast
I
monitorujemy,
don't think
mamy
I can
swojego
comment more
obserwatora
on
tam.
that. We have an observer.
Niepokoimy się, jak to będzie. No, ale GPW Benchmark jest po prostu osobnym
As
instytucją
regards
powołaną
the
specjalnie
stock
po to, żeby to
exchange,
zrobić.
they have
Zadaniowo. Ona ma
benchmarking,
tylko ten jeden cel.
and
Tylko to ma
there
zrobić.
is this institution
My
that
obserwowaliśmy fazę
is dealing with
realizacji
that.
tego.
We've been observing the
Wyraźliśmy zaniepokojenie
situation,
tym, czy na czas to będzie
and
zrobione. Ale
we
to stanowisko
wanted
w
to
całości
know
pan nie może znać. No bo właśnie,
what the situation would look like, but we don't know this standing yet.
apelujemy, żeby
But
to na
we
czas
are
zrobić.
observing the
Oferujemy wszelką
situation,
pomoc.
and
i
we
tak dalej. To
offer
stanowisko
assistance.
Właśnie benchmark nasze ma.
So
Jak
our
chce, może upublicznić, jak chce, może
benchmarking
nie upublicznić.
Szanowni Państwo,
is
jeszcze chciałbym
a
zapytać w tym
matter
kontekście,
of
przepraszam
concern.
uprzejmie, czy NBP jest przygotowana na wariant awaryjny, jeśli GPW Benchmark nie dostanie licencji od
If
KNF
this
do wypracowania
benchmark
nowego
is not
systemu?
going to receive the license of the financial,
No ale
the
proszę Państwa, na NBP jest na wszystko gotowe.
Commission on Financial Supervision is not going to make this decision. It depends on the situation in the financial market, and in this latest period when the National Bank of Poland has been attacked, we must say that an ordinary reader does not differentiate between the National Bank of Poland and the PKO Bank, for example, and some journalists who are not economists do not really realize the extent of the responsibility of the National Bank of Poland, the entire financial system, reserves, payments, stability of the banking system, monetary policy, everything. We are responsible for that. We are a guarantor of stability, and we do have to have best people. And the question about our staff and how much they earn, we do it in a proper way. We have audit, we have the Monetary Policy Council, we are accountable, and we have trade unions even. We have 4 trade unions who follow the human resources situation, remunerations, and so on and so forth. This is a transparent system. I wish it was as transparent in other places. We need to work quietly. We need reputation. We don't organize press conferences on every subject. Members of the MPC, when they get a consent of the president of the MPC, they can speak publicly. But if someone is not our employee, we do not control them. And we are disciplined. And we do everything as regards our responsibilities, and we meet you once a month, and that's it. And we refer to your questions because the situation is extraordinary. We understand that this has been a very difficult year. There is the law, everything is going to be transparent. You can ask questions if you want to have our X-rays on the internet or our health state declarations. We are going to disclose this information if there is law and for the benefit of our economy.
Szanowni Państwo, bardzo dziękuję. Dziękujemy za dzisiejsze długie spotkanie. Zapraszamy na kolejną konferencję.
We'll see